All right, guys, welcome back to Undefined with Paige Michelle. I am so excited for this episode. I'm glad to finally be doing it because I have literally cried twice, almost 4 times, because Taylor Swift's Human Design is just like the epitome of what it looks like to be all of who you are unapologetically, courageously. And then what happens when you do that? All of her money, all of her fame, all of her favor is honestly just a byproduct of her doing what she came here to do and fulfilling her purpose and mission in life. And that's so clear when you look at her human design. So she is a textbook splenic projector. She recorded this entire album during quarantine, and she did it in secret. She did it because it's what she wanted to do. It's what she needed to do. She knew it was the healthiest thing for her. And that's a quintessential splenic authority thing to do, which is to do what is correct for you, what is the healthiest thing for you and your well-being. So I don't know how you guys listen to the album, but it's really interesting to listen to it from front to back. And knowing that she has this open emotional center that absorbs other people's emotions and rides these highs and lows and sometimes amplifies them. If you listen to the album from front to back and you have an open emotional center, it will take you out. Let me tell you what. I don't know. So many of my friends were like, I was on the floor. I wanted to throw my phone. Like, it really was an emotional experience for me. And I do believe that's because she was using it to express these emotional highs and lows. She was using it to release these men and these experiences from her life. You can feel her coming out of her addiction to people pleasing and seeking outside validation and managing other people's emotions and anger and all of the feelings that kind of build up when you have this open emotional center. And that can really erode your body. You can feel her finally doing that. Like, this album is, she says it is for other people, but ultimately it's for her. So her open G center and open throat for most of her life has pulled her to people and into places in order to find love and to be loved and to find this outside validation, to figure out who she is, to kind of be a chameleon in the world and to kind of use her experiences to write music. And I'm sure that's caused a lot of suffering, because anytime that we are being pulled into life by our open centers, we're kind of being pulled out of our direction and our focus in life. But now you can see that she's using it, using the energy, the wisdom that comes from her open centers to create something for and about people other than herself. It's to help them find a way to love and to self-acceptance and to self-expression. So it's just really, really beautiful to witness, honestly. It's really beautiful to witness. So ultimately, she's doing all of that through her left angle cross of a confrontation. She's confronting these patterns in her life. She's confronting these situations and these people, and she's finding what she's passionate about and who she really is, what mission she wants to rule over. And she finally really accepts the fact that she is not changing and she doesn't want to change. And that can be confronting to people, period. I mean, she is confronting. Her music is confronting. Her message is confronting. Her sense of personal justice is confronting. And that's what she's here to do. That is her cross. It's a left angle cross. So it's personal. It's really a personal thing. It's her own sense of personal justice and her own sense of personal well-being and who she is and what she's here to rule over. So as a person with true grace, right, with this cross of confrontation and a deep sense of personal justice, with the ego, this defined heart to institute change through rulership, through ruling over something. And again, she's just reluctant to change for anybody, where as she has been throughout her life, being a chameleon, trying to change, trying to be somebody for somebody else to try and fit in, which is that open G center, really pulling her out of her purpose, which is to be exactly who she is and to not change. The G center finds who it is through its experiences with other people, but it still is who it is. It doesn't change for anybody else. It just becomes who it is through its experiences of other people. So what I like to look at when I look at a chart, once I look at kind of the purpose, is to look at Pluto, which is, when you look at the gates, the last one, that's the transformation. It's like the big transformation pieces that they're going to be experiencing throughout their life to make sure that they ultimately fill this purpose. This is what they have to transform, and how and what they transform in order to fulfill that purpose. So for her, her conscious Pluto is in aloneness. It's this aloneness. It's, well, number one, it's gate 1, and it is line 4, which is it's creative expression through being alone. So you hear her, you know, she dates, she has all of these experiences, seeking outside validation, looking for love in all of these places, when her self-expression, her transformation is really in her ability to be alone and experience what she's meant to experience in that aloneness. And she's conscious of this. This is something that she's consciously aware of, that she's experiencing to be able to transform her life. And then unconsciously, her Pluto is in gate 44, line 6, which is alertness through aloofness. So being alert to patterns, being alert to things that are not good for her, right? Because this is splenic. So these are patterns that are not necessarily healthy for her. And then also patterns that are healthy. Being aware of this through aloofness. It's an awareness of patterns which ensures one's well-being. So this is her understanding her patterns, the patterns of other people, and not letting the fear of repeating a pattern keep her from having what it is that's correct for her, having the happiness that she wants in her life. So again, her unconscious ability to experience and be alert to her own patterns and transform them through her conscious aloneness, creative expression, allows for her to confront things and people and societal conditions that threaten her well-being, and ultimately will threaten the well-being of others. So now at this point in her life, she is certain in who she is, and it's when she expresses the emotions through her creativity, she is really able to experience that certainty and move through the inherent patterns of rejection, abandonment, addiction to highs and lows that come with having an open emotional center. I have an open emotional center. And so I think that that's why that this album was just so confronting. It was just so confronting. It was not fun to listen to. It really required that you move the energy, and you cry, or you move the energy through, and you identify what it is that you're feeling. It really gave and created a space for that. It's beautiful. So what I want to do is look at some of the most popular tracks from Folklore and how they correlate to her centers in human design. So the one, which for me really stems from her open head and her open crown, which is all about the new idea, the new thing. And she says it the best, like, I'm on my new shit. Like, she's on to the next idea and the next thing. And it speaks a lot about daydreaming and kind of fantasizing about an ex and what an ex could be doing and what their life is like. And that's actually where we get into trouble with open emotional centers and open head crowns and open ajnas is we tend to like overanalyze and like create these delusional stories in our minds about what's actually happening, what could be happening. Like our inspiration and our imagination just goes wild. Our doubt goes wild. And you hear her doing that and talking about how she's fantasizing about an ex, you know, going here and doing this thing with another woman, or meeting a woman on the internet and then going to a movie with her or something. And she also talks about going to the matinee and watching movies and all this romantic stuff, which is such an open crown and open head thing to do, which really helps you kind of release the tension in it, which is to go and just like allow yourself to play in imagination. but just not to get caught up in it and not to let it become truth in your mind. And then, you know, she says the line in there, like, I guess you never know. And that is the truth for an open mind and an open auction and an open crown, which is like, you don't ever know. You're like not here to know. You're here to play. You're here to daydream. You're here to fantasize, to be open to possibility, to kind of play in the playground of your mind, not to be certain of something, of the way things are going to have to be, the plan, the how. That is the way to kind of move or to work with that open center, and to kind of remove the pattern of overthinking and overanalyzing, just being okay with like, I don't know, like, I guess you never know. So that is her open head and her open crown with that one, that song, The One. Next we have my personal favorite, which is Cardigan. So she has a defined heart. And the plague of the defined heart is to have boundless love, so much love, such a giver, that it also wants to be prioritized and to be number one, because it makes people number one. It prioritizes people almost to a fault. It makes other people the center of their universe when really they're meant to be the center of the universe. And then they feel unappreciated because they did that for the wrong person, right? They didn't listen to their authority. They didn't listen to what's correct for them. And they're just giving their love to whoever will receive it. And then they're not appreciated. So it's leaky boundaries. And so in Cardigan, she says, you know, and when I felt like I was an old cardigan under someone's bed, you put me on and said I was your favorite. Like, that's all a defined heart wants in the world, is to be prioritized, to be somebody's favorite, to be appreciated, and to be number one. Like, they're extremely competitive. And then you hear her certainty and like the ego that is the defined heart. That's like, they understand when they're in their highest expression that their power and presence that they hold is a force in somebody's life. So she says, and I knew you'd miss me once the thrill expired, and you'd be standing in the front porch light, and I knew you'd come back to me, that you'd come back to me. It's just that certainty and that belief in who you are when you're operating at the highest frequency of a defined heart. So I personally love this song because I felt it in my soul. And then we move on to Mad Woman. So this to me is kind of a song that, you know, really shows what it's like to have a defined heart, but then an open emotional center. Especially with the lines, does she smile or does she mouth fuck you forever? So when you have an open emotional center, you tend to people please, to be able to maintain an emotional high, to be able to maintain control, to be able to manage other people's emotions, because until you recognize it, you are emotionally victim to other people. You tend to emotionally manipulate other people in order to not feel uncomfortable. So when she says, does she smile or does she mouth fuck you forever? It really is like, do I say what you want me to say so I don't have to feel your discomfort? Or do I tell you how I really feel, which is fuck you forever? You know, being poked, being angry, being poked at over and over and over and over again for being who you are unapologetically, being poked at for being a giver and to loving and to being certain in who you are. And then finally erupting emotionally, and then to be told you're a mad woman, you're an angry woman. I mean, that's what it can feel like when you're not emotionally stable with a defined heart, when you're not emotionally certain with a defined heart, when your emotional intelligence isn't at its highest when you have a defined heart. It can feel like mad woman. It can feel like living in a world where, you know, you are angry and people don't get it. And then people have a lot to say about you being angry when you're just really certain in who you are. And what it feels like on a level to people please when you are that certain in who you are, it's painful. So again, the open emotional center and that defined heart working together or almost against each other is, to me, what you get when you listen to Mad Woman. The push and the pull, you know, until you snap emotionally. But once you get into an emotional certainty, an emotional stability, which we'll talk about later, then that heart becomes super powerful. So then we talk about the open emotional center highs and lows. I think that we really understand the emotional low, like the ultimate emotional low, what that emotional low can feel like when it's at its worst, when we listen to Tears Ricochet. So it's the other end of the emotional spectrum, and almost a sequel to Mad Woman, which, you know, when you have an emotional high, you have a low. I mean, it's the other end of the spectrum. And how that can feel is like victimhood and feeling like everybody's out to get you and that nobody appreciates you and that every single thing people have done has been to hurt you. And you do just want to leave. And you do think, what is it all for? And you want people to hurt because you hurt. And that's also not ever a place you want to make a decision from. So the lyrics of Tears Ricochet are really from a woman who is speaking from the dead and like almost watching her own wake and her own funeral. You know, she says, you turned into your worst fears and you're tossing out blame, drunk on this pain, crossing out the good years, and you're cursing my name, wishing I stayed. Look at how my tears ricocheted. You know, when you're in an emotional low, that's when it does feel like you want to end it all. And it does. And a lot of people do. And that's because they made a decision from an emotionally low place. It's not necessarily correct for them. It's just when you're in an emotional low, an energetic low, the thoughts in your head, the lower frequency thoughts of what is this all for? They don't love me. They don't appreciate me. What am I even doing here? Amplify. And a lot of people do take their life. So she's speaking to that in this. And I think that that's just an incredible illustration of what it can feel like and what it can look like when you're in an emotional low. And then she goes into peace, you know, the self-acceptance and love and commitment to others that comes when you find emotional regulation, emotional management, emotional intelligence, when you're no longer victim to other people's emotional highs and lows. What can come from that when you have a defined heart is peace. And not only is it peace, it's a level of self-acceptance and love and commitment to other people that is unprecedented. And so she speaks to it. I mean, the song is so, I love it so much, obviously, because it with my defined heart and this open emotional center, when I have the clarity, it speaks to what it's like to love when you have a defined heart, truly, and without managing other people's emotions and still having your needs met and being completely direct in your communication, fully expressed in who you are and unapologetic about that. So she says, you know, all these people think love's for show, but I would die for you in secret. The commitment, like truly the devotion of a defined heart. The devil's in the details, but you got a friend in me. Like the loyalty in a defined heart. Would it be enough if I could never give you peace? I mean, she's in this song self-accepting that due to her mission and her purpose, who she is here to be, she cannot provide peace to whoever it is that she loves, because that's not a part of it. You know, that's not a part of this. There's always going to be a level of fame and notoriety and like disruption and chaos in her life if she emotionally allows it. Can she find it emotionally? Yes, but like it's never going to be, you know, a private life. And she's basically saying, this is who I am and this is the way that it is, and this is what I can offer you. I can offer you love and commitment and provision like no other, devotion and loyalty like no other, but I can't offer you peace. You know, I will give you my wild, I'll give you a child, like she will give you, and a defined heart will just give you everything that they have, but you have to appreciate it. And they have to be at peace and self-accepting of themselves to be able to do that. Next, we move on to her open G center and the song Invisible String, which when you have an open G center, you are here to come to self-certainty and identification and self-love through your experiences with other people. So the lessons you learn with people, from people, the identity you experience through your friendships, through those experiences, the twists and turns of life. It's like they're not pulled by an inner compass, but they're pulled by an invisible string tied to the person for them, or the ultimate goal, the ultimate mission. And the way that you stay connected to that string is through your authority. In her case, it's her spleen, it's her instinct, it's her like in the moment instinct. Let me just go in here, let me just say this thing, let me just do this thing. And so she talks, you know, in the lyrics, it's all along there was some invisible string tying you to me, a string that pulled me out of all the wrong arms right into that dive bar. The thing about the G center, the open G centers, if you're in the right place, you will meet the right people. If you're in the wrong place, you will meet the wrong people. So when she stopped being pulled into the wrong places and the wrong environments by her patterns, and she followed the invisible string based in her spleen and her authority making, she followed her instinct and walked right into the dive bar and met the love of her life. And so hell was the journey that brought me to heaven. Finally, we have the coming of age, the full awareness and self-acceptance of her as a 5-1 projector with an open G center and a splenic authority. When we listen to the song Mirror Ball, you know, these people project who others are back onto that person. It's like watching a movie of yourself. You see yourself for the first time through a projector, but especially through a 5-1, because they have that projected aura. You know, you're going to, as a projector, a 5-1 projector, and just a projector in general, you're going to show them versions of themselves that they've never seen before. And all you're here to do is to be a light, and to be a light of love, to talk about what it is that you want to talk about, to project the life that you see out into the world, the love that you feel out into the world, and to just be a guiding light, a mirror ball for those around you. So she's also realizing that she is meant to adapt to fit in with the environments that she is in. She isn't meant to be a bit of a chameleon and to kind of fit into different groups and different scenarios, to be able to experience different identities or experience other people's identities and their sense of selves, to really help them come home to themselves. So in Mirror Ball, she says, hush, when no one is around, my dear, you'll find me on my tallest tiptoes, spinning in my highest heels. Love, shining just for you. Hush, I know they said the end is near, but I'm still on my tallest tiptoes, spinning on my highest heels. Love, shining just for you. The song is just so fitting for like who she ultimately is and who she has grown into. So, and ultimately in writing this album that brought so many of us to our knees, it helped us to self-accept and release feelings, relationships, and people who aren't for us. You know, and finally embrace the person that we see in the mirror in order to be truly loved for who we are without needing outside validation. Whereas her other albums were about her experiences. This is really the epitome of what it is to be a projector, what it is to be a projector in the world, and to just be an example of what is possible and what it means to just shine love and light and reflect love back to people and who they are back to them, the experiences of life, her experiences, her feelings, her emotions. So I hope that when you go listen to this album, that you listen to it from a perspective that maybe you didn't before. And yeah, if you guys are curious about your human design, then you can visit undefinedthemagazine.com. You can get your free chart. We also have the ability to get a reading done for I think it's like $97, or you can download the very first issue of Undefined magazine for free, which goes into your human design more, or you can listen to past episodes of this podcast. And as always, you can follow us on social media. You can follow me on social media at I am Paige Michelle. And if you really enjoyed this and you want more, I would so appreciate a subscribe and a review.